What do you notice about these two graphs? Take a moment, pause the video, and try to make some observations. One of the things you might have noticed is that their shapes look very similar. And they are. The only difference is where they are on the coordinate system. Do you notice how these two graphs seem to be the opposite or reflected version of each other? Graphs like these play an important role in mathematics, and these special curves are reflections of each other. And today we will be making a kaleidoscope, which uses reflections in its design. For this project, you will need a piece of white paper, some scissors, colored markers, a black marker or Sharpie, a ruler, and a pencil. First things first, take your paper and fold it across so that the top side of the paper aligns with the side of it. This will help to make your square. This act also has math incorporated in it, but we will explore that another day. After you've done that, use your scissors to cut along the edge of the paper to finish making your square. Now that you have your square, you're going to fold it diagonally to create an X. Make sure to do it on both sides. I also recommend pressing down with your fingernails so that the line becomes more visible. After that, you're going to start writing your word. It can be your name, your favorite animal, your favorite food, or anything. Try not to make it super long though, especially if this is your first time doing this project. I'm going to be writing the word map. On your piece of square paper, you're going to start writing your word. Using your pencil first, sketch out the letters of your word in one of the 4 triangular sections, and make the tops of your letters touch the borders of the section, like this. To make sure our lines are extra straight, we're going to use a ruler and finalize our letters. And voila! 1 section down, 3 more to go. Now it's time to use your reflections. You're going to draw your letters in the other sections of the kaleidoscope, but this time reflected across the borders. This might be difficult at first, so take your time and pause this video anytime you need to. You can also use your ruler again in case you need it. One thing I recommend doing is folding your paper so that you can see your first outline underneath and tracing over it on the back. This will cause an indent or mark to show up, which will help you draw your reflected word. Or you could also just draw dots to give you a reference. Do the same thing for the other triangular sections, and remember that in some sections the letters appear backwards, which is part of the reflection. Now that we've got the outline done, it's time to add some color. But first, take your black marker and outline your letters to make them pop. Now it is time to have some fun. Using your favorite markers, color in the kaleidoscope. Make sure to keep your colors across the 4 sections the same so the reflection pattern can be noticed easily. I would also recommend using lighter colors on the letters and darker colors on the background to make sure the word pops more. Once you are done, it should look something like this. Isn't it so cool? Okay, so I know we've made an art project about reflections, but what are they really? Well, the simplest example is a mirror. But to understand this mathematically, let's also look at some graphs. First, let's take this graph. If we were to reflect it across the x-axis, it would look like this. And the points of the original graph change too. The y-coordinate of all the points becomes the opposite sign, while the x-coordinate stays the same. When we reflect it across the y-axis, however, like this, the x-coordinate changes. In this case, the negative values of x in the original graph become positive in the reflected version. So, the x becomes opposite sign. In addition to the x and y axis, you can also reflect graphs over lines. One of the most common is the y equals x line. So, if I had this graph and reflected it over that line, it would turn into this. And what do you think happens to the points in this case? What changes and what doesn't? Try to figure it out on your own. Well, the x-coordinates become the y-coordinates, while the y-coordinates become the x-coordinates. In other words, they exchange. In our art project, the lines we created by folding the paper represent the lines that the graphs are being reflected over. And since it is directly down the middle, the line in our kaleidoscope is like the y equals x graph in the last example. That's amazing, right? Well, I hope you had a lot of fun making this kaleidoscope and learning about reflections with me. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye!